The Sunday Igboho struggle you are saying is funded by Tinubu. Yes. Because the problem at that time was that Tinubu was having issue with Buhari up north. They weren't going to accept him as a candidate. And he looked at it and said, I helped you guys to get to power. You guys don't want my candidacy. I'm going to tell the Yoruba people to leave. He started funding them. They have not denied it. So, Buhari being who he is, came and tried to kill Sunday Igboho. Without informing the governor of Oyo State, they brought a special force or special forces from Abuja to come and kill Sunday Igboho. Sunday Igboho was in that house that day, but he was hiding. Before they came back, he had jumped the fence. Even when he was in Benin Republic, he had injuries that they were hiding from you. And he left that night. He left Nigeria that night. They wanted to kill him so that Tinubu will know that they are not playing. That's what happened. So Tinubu had to retreat because it was based on their own security intelligence that Tinubu was behind them. But they had already achieved what he wanted to achieve, which was to scare the Buhari people to know that he has the capacity to disrupt the country. And you know, an average Northerner, with due respect to them, their issue is unity. If you want to appeal to the North, just say that ask the president when he went to Yewata, didn't he promise them the same thing? That this will never happen. The same place too. I mean, was it Yewata in
Benue State?
Did he actually go there?
He went. Wherever he went, halfway. And Benue and Plateau are boundary states. So people should just learn to understand that the president and his cabinet have run out of ideas. How did you know? If you install CCTV in Jos, ask them, the CCTV they said they were going to install in Abuja, what happened to the contract? Over $400 million, naira. And I can't, maybe it was dollars or something. You know, you remember the CCTV that was supposed to be installed in Abuja during El Rufai's time? What happened to it? And if you install CCTV in Jos, what are we going to be watching on it? How they are killing people? It's not CCTV. You know, I'm big on technology, but the issue is not CCTV. The issue is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, who has failed completely at his duties. And what they just do whenever there is a tragedy of this proportion, you make a trip. You make all these promises. The terrorists or bandits or kidnappers, whatever you want to call them, depending on the nomenclature you are comfortable with, will be back again to do what they know how to do best, because there are no boots on the ground. There are no planes or drones in the air to track, pick intelligence, see the movement, and ensure that you prevent these things from happening in the first place. So the promises of a 5,000 CCTV is not going to help anybody. He knows very well. That's why we should also ask him, the people you met with at the airport, are you sure that they're the real victims, or they're members of your party recruited to come and represent the victims? But whomever he met, they are victims in this country. Yes. Victims of bad leadership.
All right.
So I'd like to follow up. There's a clip that was going around, of what he said to them while at the visit. He said, I have 10 minutes to leave here.
Yes.
There's no light at the airport. And then everybody went ahead to clap after he made that speech. And a lot of people have been criticizing that speech. Most people in the country would think that the president is insensitive, but did that go overboard?
No, that's why I said everybody that is in that room is a victim of whatever has happened to them, which is Nigeria, including those who are suffering what we call the Stockholm Syndrome. Those are the people who clapped. They're in love with their oppressors. They don't even know it. It's a reaction that comes from a place of defeat, which most people have not accepted and admitted yet. So at the end, he knows that the people are not serious. There's nothing they can do. There's no responsibility. There's no accountability. And there's definitely no urgency attached to it. Otherwise, you'll not be telling the people that you can't be looking at your watch when you're talking about the death of 80 persons who have died. They haven't even buried them yet. And not only did he do that, I became his victim last night because he came back to Lagos and they kept us in the traffic for 30 minutes just for the man who did nothing just to cross the street. It's part of the problem we are talking about, leadership in the country. And no matter what you say about Nigeria, the number one issue with Nigeria today, yesterday, and historically is leadership. That is what Chinua Achebe said at that time, and it's still present today. It's still true till tomorrow.
I want to ask something along those lines. If leadership was a problem from 1960,
Yes.
is it fair for us to blame the degeneration of the state of Nigeria on this present administration?
Oh, absolutely.
Because a lot of people would say that this generation is this government is worse than the PDP government that was in power before Buhari took over. What is your take on that? And do you think any of these candidates could have done a better job? Is it Peter Obi or Atiku Abubakar?
I would have done a better job. I was a candidate in the last election. I could close my eyes and run this country better than any of these failed leaders. So to your question, the truth is that they didn't start today. Tinubu was a senator in 1992 in this country. Most people did not know. In the National Assembly, when Babangida was arranging a system of governance known as diarchy, he was the military head of state, and they put them there to help deceive the public that we were moving towards democracy, which wasn't happening. So they have been in the apprenticeship of destroying the nation known as Nigeria for a long time. Don't forget, in 1992, when Tinubu was a senator, I was the president of the University of Lagos Student Union. In 1992, when Atiku first ran to be president in Jos, this same Jos, I was a student union leader. Don't forget, in about 1983 or 84 or 85, when David Mark was the governor of Niger State, I was in secondary school. So I'm just giving you a trajectory of how they have come along and how they are responsible for the rot you're saying. David Mark, who is now the chairman of ADC, of blessed memory, according to what happened yesterday, said it was not the right of Nigerians to use telephone. Yes, when he was Minister of Communication under Babangida. And when Abiola won June 12th election, David Mark was the one who boasted in the Armed Forces Council, headed by Babangida, that if they hand over power to Abiola, they will kill Babangida. This is David Mark. So I'm just giving you some historical context to why they are all responsible for it. They didn't start today. So Tinubu just didn't come from the woodworks to be president of Nigeria. He was governor of Lagos State for 8 years. He was senator in 1992 before they had disagreement within their political class, and one side, defeated the other. So they have always all been part of, and that is why I look at Nigerian people, especially young people, in the eyes and say, there's something wrong with you if all you can do is recycle the same failed people, and then you are complaining about the results. And there's a reason why in 2022, nobody could convince me that anybody who was a governor in Nigeria for 8 years should come back and fail you again. Even though you can package the person, no matter how well the person is packaged. I will ask you, sir, I want to see your results. And this is a question I ask whenever I go everywhere with them, because I had the opportunity, having run for the presidency twice, to meet several of these guys at close quarters. They have nothing to offer you. Nothing. That is what they call tabula rasa. They have nothing upstairs. The only thing they have is the clothes they are wearing most of the time. Nothing else. They have no ideas. They have no ideology. They have no conviction. But they are united by something, greed. And it is the greed that unites them that fails your national grid every 5 hours.
I want to ask you a question. Yes. I want to take you back, because you're politically sound and you've been part of the Nigerian polity, even if it is student union leadership. I want to take you back to 1983.
Yes.
When Muhammadu Buhari and Tunde Idiagmo were in power.
Yes.
And Tunde Idiagmo started a campaign that lasted up till now, the war against indiscipline. We still see little snippets of it, and we still have the environmental sanitation that was started then.
Yes.
Tunde Idiagbon and Muhammadu Buhari were on a course to sanitize Nigeria of corruption. By the time they came into power, we had 19 states, and out of the 19 states, there were 19 governors. 14 or 15 of them were in prison. Just coming out of government, they went straight to prison. Now, rumor has it, I can't confirm, that MK Abiola was part of the people that was behind the removal of Tunde Idiagbon. What is your take on that story? Secondly,
Yes.
do you think if Idiagbon and Buhari had run their full term and implemented their harsh but seemingly working principles, Nigeria would have been on the trajectory towards a corruption-free state?
See, I love the question. And to answer you correctly, I was never a supporter of Abiola.
Why?
Yes. We were on the side of Fela. Yes.
Fela never liked Abiola.
Abiola. Like the ITT thing was for us.
Please, for the
evergreen.
generation that do not
Yes.
understand what
ITT is International Tiff. That was his song.
International
Tiff. ITT. Obasanjo and Abiola International Tiff. So where we came in was 1993 when an election was held. And all of us had been played by Babangida to the point that Babangida was referred to as Maradona. He just kept playing everybody. Even Charlie Boy, when his trade was still thriving, sang probably one of his only good track, 1990, where he sang, I'm criticizing him here because since then I've not seemed to become really creative. That he sang 1990. And the moment that record came alive, where his bus stop used to be, which I hope will be restored to him one day, even if not for any other reason, but the fact that he was creative at that spot, and we need to remember that history. I went to his house with Olusegun Mayegun, who was NAS president, and I said, great guy. I'm telling you that so that we know that we knew that Abiola and Babangida were in cahoot against the Nigerian people. Let me make another revelation to you today. When Nelson Mandela came to the University of Lagos in 1992, I think that was when he came to visit Nigeria after he was released from prison. I was one of the students who drove Abiola out of the University of Lagos. He forgot his cap in the protest that we don't want to see him on campus. He was banned from campuses. NANS, that I was part of as a senator, because if you're a president of a student union, you are a member of NANS as a senator, did not endorse the transition program. So we did not even vote during the 1993 election as student leaders. It was a taboo to campaign for Abiola or vote in that election because we knew and said, this election is not going to fulfill our democratic aspirations. Babangida was playing games with us. Don't forget, he had created two political parties. One of it was the Social Democratic Party and the National Republican Convention. And he described it arrogantly, say one will be a little bit to the left, the other will be a little bit to the right. And he went ahead and ensured that the candidates were candidates that almost were handpicked by him. Of course, Abiola was complicit in that program. And we said, we are not going to support Abiola. But the moment the election held, and to our surprise, was free and fair across the country. It was done under what they call option A4. You queue up behind the candidate of your choice. By noon, Nigeria had done an election that was the cheapest, the freest, and the most credible. Nobody could fault it. And we said to ourselves, well, we have come to a point where they shot themselves in the foot. We're going to have a transition program. We will take it from there because prior to the 1993 election, we were trying to conduct what they call a sovereign national conference. Of our own, it was led by Akaba Shoron late night. I was the president of the NBA at that time, Ganifa Femi Falana. But the military came and drove us away while we were planning that. And the reason for the Sovereign National Conference was to create a constitution for the Nigerian people, because we knew the military guys would leave behind a constitution that was not for the people. The source of the problematic Nigerian constitution today was the fact that Nigerian people never made a constitution.
Hey.
So the military imposed a constitution on Nigeria in 1999, to the point that by the time Obasanjo was being sworn in, there was not a copy of that constitution available anywhere. Go and ask John Owodo, who was Minister of Information at that time. There was not a photocopy available. The military wrote the constitution and imposed on Nigeria. But it was...
Wait, sorry. I know that people have said, they wrote the constitution. You are saying that there was no copy.
Available on the day Obasanjo was sworn in. You can
The 1999 constitution.
Of course, because it was the military that wrote it. They were in a hurry to hand over power. They were looting the country wherever they could loot. I'm talking about Abdul Salam
Abubakar.
And they forgot to print a copy of the constitution. So whatever was presented to Obasanjo on that day was a photocopy that John Owodo them arranged to go and do. Up until 1999, you can ask any constitutional lawyer, there were errors in Nigerian constitution because it was a copy and paste. And they forgot to delete the name of the US in one of the chapters where they copied it from.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, and we said we wanted a constitution that was created by the people, but they never, of course, allowed that. That was the point at which we changed gear to be with Abiola, to help chase the military out of power, particularly Babangida, and then force Abiola to bring about the kind of, constitutional reforms that was necessary for Nigeria at that time. And Babangida, on June 27th, was high on drugs like hell. You see it on NTA. He couldn't even button up his military uniform and announce the annulment of the election.
So you're saying that he had to be on mind-altering substances before he could make that
There's no
procurement.
question about it. You can, if when you are doing this show, you should go and get a copy of that video broadcast he did. You know that this guy couldn't have been a normal person with what he did that night.
Sorry, don't forget to answer the Tunde Diagbon
The Tunde Diagbon question is this. If they were the real people they claimed they were just a fascist regime. And Nigerians have love for quick solutions. What was it that they brought about? Environmental sanitation. If you didn't cut the grass in front of your house, soldiers came and beat you up. They came to my village in Kiribo. I had never traveled out of the village. Came and lined up everybody in the village. I remember a 72-year-old man. They asked him, did you cut the grass in front of you? I said, yes. He went to his house, so it was clean. He said, how about your brother? I said, well, my brother had a mental problem. I'm not responsible for cleaning his house. If I go there, he might kill me. The soldier asked him, the man, he said, if your brother had a cocoa farm, will you not inherit it? They asked him to lie down and gave him 12 strokes of cane in front of the entire village. It was just public humiliation of people. But if you thought Diagbon and Buhari had agenda or ideas, when Buhari came back, how come he didn't
come back with Diagbon?
No. You see, he came back with almost everybody that was with him. The guy who was in customs, well, they were Buhari boys. It's not John Momo, there's a Momo who used to be around in those days. A lot of all these Galadima who later left Buhari, they were all around in 1983. So what that must have taught you is to jettison the idea that because somebody had done something before, he had experience. Because otherwise, who would have been the most two experienced Nigerian leaders? Obasanjo. He came back in 1999. Look at the way he left your country. The experience was terrible. Buhari came back after how many years? 1983 to 2015. He brought back the same ideas. He actually introduced war against the discipline as soon as he came. But how and I want to answer that also critically, that you don't have leaders is anybody who is still doing environmental sanitation in 2026 in places like Lagos, where you say this is the sixth largest economy, you cannot clean your drainage. When I came to Lagos, In 1986, for the first time, we had Festac. I was living in Festac. Festac was better than certain streets in London that I've been to after that.
In 1986.
86.
Oh, wow.
They had electric, it had traffic lights everywhere. So they had places where children could play in Festac. Their roads were some of the best. They had sewage system between Festac and Mile 2 that Jack Conde puts in place. They had schools everywhere. They were building houses, what they call low-cost housing. That some of them are still available till today. And the workers were happy. They were spending little money. In fact, it was this backward Buhari we are talking about that came and cancelled what should have been the railway system, what you call the intercity railway system that Jack Conde was building, saying that it was too expensive. And you're telling me that if they were around, they would have done any better. They were just doing based on what they knew how to do. They understood the Nigerian people that they liked to be enslaved and to be maltreated. They did all the maltreatment they could do. And when it was time, Babangida came and drove them out. Let me tell you, when I was in detention in 2019 with Dasuki, the former NSA, I asked him, I said, you are the people who went and overthrew Buhari. What happened? We were both in detention. Now, don't forget, Buhari had waited for him because the only thing that Buhari knew how to do is vengeance. Waited for him in 2015 after he had had him, as we say in Nigeria, in his mind since 1983. He told me something shocking about Buhari. He said when they jailed Buhari after they took over from him, they put him in a 3-bedroom apartment in Benin City in a barrack. He said Buhari did not go to the window to check what was outside. He said that's how wicked that man was. So I asked him, why did you remove him from power? Because Nigerians thought, he said Buhari had nothing upstairs. That the day they went to tell him that they are planning to overthrow the Shagari regime, they saw Buhari drinking Gary in Jos. He's under, he has a boxers. He said, General, we've come to see you. He was wearing this undershirt they call wife beater. So that was, for him, that was the point at which he would have turned back. But they were looking for somebody that was acceptable to Nigerians. It wasn't Buhari that did the coup. It was Babangida and Abacha Abiola
they say,
that did the
allegedly
coup. But they needed to present a face that was acceptable to Nigerians. That was how Buhari, the so-called pristine military guy, disciplined military guy, was approached. And he said when he met him, he said, sir, we want to make you president. He said, what happened? Well, I'll do it, but you can't control me. He said, don't worry. And they said for the 2 years he was there, Buhari didn't really do anything. It was the guy one that was running around based on his own abilities, mental and intellectual abilities. And that's the best they could come with. He said when Buhari was going to be removed, they went to him and he didn't argue with them. But there's a guy they call Jokolo in the military. He's now, I think Buhari also removed him as a traditional. When he left the army, he became a traditional ruler. But I think when Buhari came to power, they also removed him. His name is Jokolo. Jokolo was the one who went and burnt Fela's shrine. He's an erratic, I think he's still alive. So it was Jokolo that slapped Buhari when they went to take over power from him. And Buhari said, oh, you are the one who led these idiots to come and Buhari had him in mind.
Since 1983.
Since 1983 until 2015. Dasuki was the NSA, the National Security Advisor to Jonathan. So when Buhari came, Dasuki left to go to the US. Buhari lured him back into Nigeria. He said, called him, he said, I don't have a cabinet yet. I need somebody to help me navigate through at least issues of national, I'm a national security person. So they bought him a ticket that came back. That was the end. Dasuki was in detention from 2015 and left with me the day I was released in 2019, December 24th. In fact, it was likely because of the pressure over my detention that they decided to use that opportunity to release him. So we had that conversation several times about, he said, they realized that the guy added nothing to governance. So they decided, and when they met him, it's the same way they met him to come and be president. They met him
Leave.
when they removed him. But somehow there has been this urban legend that it was Dasuki that slapped Buhari. He said, no. And if you know Dasuki very well, he's not the aggressive type of person. But there's a Jokolo. And I'm saying this all to let you know what I know a little bit about Nigeria's history. And to answer your question about why Nigeria is this, it's the same players. Just along the line, maybe they will change some of, the flanks and change the players in those. But it has been the same type of people that have been running Nigeria since 1960, practically, The Obasanjos you are seeing today, they were around during the Civil War. They fought the Civil War. But when they came back to Nigeria, the people who they claimed they didn't defeat in the Civil War, they were clapping for them. Obasanjo is more popular in the East than anybody. But they are the ones who went and killed people in the Civil War era. And I tell people, I'm not part of people that fought in the war. I was born in 1971. So you cannot recruit me to continue the hate. Because it never ended the war till today. It has not ended. Anybody who's lying to you that the Civil War ended, it just started from an active war and ended as a Cold War. But the fault lines are still there. That is why Nnamdi Kanu is in prison. And you don't have anywhere to put him. You had to put him in Sokoto prison just to show to the owners of Nigeria, here we are. We have come to deliver the boy who was trying to be foolish about the unity of the country to you. That's the symbolism of taking Nnamdi Kanu to Sokoto. Otherwise, there are several prisons that he would have been taken to.
I'd like to ask you. You mentioned earlier about results.
Yes.
That you can't take governors that have led for 8 years and put them back in the system.
Yes.
A week or two ago, if I can remember correctly, you went to Abia State.
Yes.
And
I was probably longer than a week ago. It was probably almost a month now.
You made rounds on the internet that you were criticizing the government, the present-day government of Abia State.
Yes.
And a lot of people would say, why? Because, I'm from Abia State. And I know where Abia State was and where it is now.
Yes.
And he's the most popular governor at this time.
Yes.
So people would like to know, or people have been saying, are
Why?
you that self-righteous? Isn't that self-righteousness? And you think that nobody else does it better, it must be you. Even this person that we are saying that he's a good person, we are also saying no, he's not a good person. Is he only you?
See, this is what I will tell you. If you have never experienced any kind of governance before, a mediocre will look like a magician to you. I was in Aba. Personally, they didn't tell me. And when we arrived at Aba, we went for a protest. See, for context, I'm friends with Alesoti. Go to Sahara Reporters, you see several of his articles. I used to personally publish his articles, and the articles were critical about governance. Because I knew Alesoti when he was working at the First Bank. Back then. And he was working to help Western Union. That's his role in First Bank. And they would come to the US, and I started Sahara Reporters at that time. I also had adverts from First Bank. So they would call all of us, including this Haitian musician, I forgot his name now. Wyclef. They would call all of us to a meeting because he was an ambassador to Western Union. So I saw Lesoti. And before I knew that Lesoti had risen and become the Diamond Bank MD. So we were friends. And when I was running for office in 2019, I slept in his house twice. So that's how close we were. But I used to tell him, even when he used to wake me up at 4 a.m. in the morning to publish his articles, I'll read the article. I say, Lesoti, you are trying to become governor. You are criticizing these other governors. When you become governor, you better do well, oh. Otherwise, I will come after you personally. And he promised me he would. So, but to just fast forward, I was in Ariaria Market, which for me was a place I expected to see wonder. That is economic life wire of Aba. Yes. And Ariaria Market to me just looked like a regular Jurassic Park. I was like, what happened? And I started asking questions right there in the market. I said, but OT was supposed to have completely turned around, at least Aba. I didn't see that. I didn't tell him I was coming because I don't want him to ask me to come and sleep at his place so that they'll take me around. No, I wanted to see things for myself. And we did our protest. When we got to the protest ground, they had heard that I was involved in the protest. They brought soldiers to stop the protest. And I went to the soldiers and I said, I'm here for a protest for Nnamdi Kanu. You have to let us do it or there will be a problem. They had already arrested the guys who were doing the initial mobilization. The soldiers, out of respect, let us start. And we went, the protest took place largely within Ariara Market. So when you are entering the part of Ariara Market where these things, you must have seen in the video, there is a shopping mall built there. And that's all that I saw. I said, but OT is supposed to have transformed this place. Don't forget, and this is important for context, I have always been on the neck of Nigerian governors wherever you may be. In fact, I have a governor's tour on my Facebook page. I go to Gombe, Borno. In particular, I have been on the neck of Abia State governors because Oju Zokalu was a thief I caught in Potomac where he bought a house from Abia's money. It was me that published the story. And there was nothing he didn't try to do. He even asked me to come and visit him in that house, Potomac, when they were buying houses as soon as they were governors. Atiku also bought a house in Potomac until Atiku was driven out of the US and he had to sell the house. Yes, I went to interview him there. They were buying mansions. The former governor of Bayelsa State, Alamasei, also bought house with fake name, Audu. All of them, I did all the Potomac stories. So, and the reason I was doing that at that time is that these people are stealing monies meant for development to bring to the US to buy houses. The one that followed him, Theodore Oji, another despicable human being, and I'm not afraid to say that. I was the one who published the video of Theodore Oji with a chicken in his hand in his underwear. When he was trying to, because he went to swear inside the shrine. I had the video, I published it. So when you're talking about Abia State, I have been on their neck for a long time. After Theodore Oji left, the one that I call Isi Slippers, Ikpeazu. The reason I call him, I said, for your 8 years in power, you only produce one slippers, which he used to show that is how Abia supposed to be governed. I was on his case. So you cannot tell me that I don't know anything about Aba. The one you are saying that, if you've seen Aba before, I've seen Aba before.
When last did you go to Aba? Apart from this last
2 weeks.
time.
I've been to Aba
apart from this last time.
No. I've been to Aba more recently than you have been there.
Sir.
No. When was the last time you were in Aba?
Sir, I was...
No. Wait. When was the last time you were in Aba? When was the last time you were in Aba?
Earlier this year.
Okay.
Earlier this year I was in Aba
3 weeks ago.
But what I'm trying to say to you, sorry, sir, permit me to say this.
Yes, go ahead.
I was born in Aba.
Yes.
Right? I did my primary school in Aba. I did my secondary school in Umuahia.
Okay.
I did my university in Abia State University. So for the largest part of my life, I have been in Abia State.
Yes.
What I am saying is that the people of Abia have known suffering. And I understand if you say that mediocre, people will settle and rejoice for mediocre.
Exactly.
If that is because they have been through hell. So if there's a beam of light, are you saying we should not celebrate the beam of light?
I've been through the hell with you.
So why would you still criticize somebody that is trying to make it better?
No. You see, if you listen to me, I'm not trying to be defensive. I was even generous by saying that I saw some transformation. I said, but I'm a believer in total transformation.
Well, it can't happen speedily.
No. It can happen speedily. The reason is that the volume of money that was available to Oti is more than almost 3 state governors combined together. I'm not excusing them. Tinubu is giving them money. Absolute money. That's how he's buying all these governors who claim they have moved to it's all about, it's a transactional situation. What I'm telling you is that I have expectations that are higher than yours. You can respect that. And it applies to my states. I come from Ondo State. We have a useless governor too. I call him out. You guys, I followed a copper in this Lagos who called Lagos smelly. Yeah. And they were after her. I followed her. I went to her local government person and she ran away. Why were they after her? Because she said Tinubu is incompetent, which is true. And that Lagos was smelling. They wanted to behead her. She's from what's it called, Cross River State. Is anybody going to say that because they were born in Lagos, she has no right to say that she smelled a bad Lagos? I once fought this Fashola because I'm just explaining so that you guys will understand. You know, what you have seen is little compared to what I've seen. Fashola was a star governor in this Lagos state at the time. He went to this London School of Economics. I was actively Sahara reporter at that time. And everybody was praising him. And I said, well, Mr. Governor, the video is still on YouTube. You are said to be doing well in Lagos. I said, well, I just came from Lagos. Part of Lagos is deodorized. You're using deodorant. The other is ghettoized. He got upset. But he never recovered from that question. At the end of the day, do you guys still can stand up today and say Fashola transformed Lagos?
So, Babasho.
Because
Sorry,
to get
before
here,
I want to bring
if I'm coming to
back.
where you are, I know what I went through just to get here. And somebody will say that I cannot talk about Lagos. All of us are Nigerians. We are entitled to speak to the standards expected of our leaders. Who, you see, I'm not part of the people that will praise the governor for paying salaries. What do you expect? People work. You got to pay them.
Yeah.
I'm not, one of the questions that you don't even ask is that, what is Alex Oti's minimum wage? The Alex Oti you are talking about. What is the minimum wage of the workers?
What's his minimum wage?
I don't know. I'm asking you. You are the one who was born there.
Sorry, there was something you said that Tinubu, according to you, is buying all these governors.
Of course.
Can we throw some light on that? Because there was a video I watched of you saying most of the, I think, House of Rep members that came in on the Labour Party ticket have now moved to.
They didn't even go back to where they were coming from. Because most of them are travelers from PDP and other parties. By the time they were migrating, as the migratory birds that they are, selfish people, they migrated to the APC.
How many governors are moving now? And how many governors do you think are receiving money from the presidency?
All of the governors are receiving money. See, how you will understand the way Tinubu moves is that as he is in Lagos, most of the governors are already in Lagos.